everybody, welcome to another edition of Straight from the Paws. We are here again on a cold, rainy, wet day outside. So we are inside our building in one of our cat rooms filming today's episode. My guest today is none other than the famous Bill Giampaolo from New England Dog Training. Welcome, Bill.
Hello.
Hi. So we've been trying to get Bill on our show for quite a while, and he's always been busy. So we finally got him on our show today, and we've got a lot of things to talk about for our show. So first of all, let's find out how Bill started New England Dog Training, because his location is in Westport, I believe on American Legion Highway?
Yeah, 522
American Legion Highway. So Bill owns a business with his partner, New England Dog Training at American Legion Highway. So how did you get there, Bill? Short version.
I learned how to dog train in Florida, and I moved up here because I used to be from up here, and I missed it. I wanted the seasons. We opened up the business, and has been rocking away ever since until COVID hit.
So COVID, yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. But one of the things that I want to explain to everybody is he's a dog trainer, but he also has doggy daycare.
Doggy daycare, overnight boarding, yep.
So it's kind of a multifaceted business. And how we got involved with Bill would take me back to maybe 2.5 years ago when I received a foster dog from one of our other fosters. So Betty was fostering a dog for us. As you all know here on this show, we do a lot of fostering. And we have a lot of shows about fostering. So Betty was one of our fosters, and she was going on vacation, and she had one of our dogs, and she said, Bev, can I bring my foster dog over to you? I have to go on vacation. You know, I always have to go on vacation. Betty goes on a lot of vacations.
Yeah.
So I said, sure, yeah. I know, wish we had as many. So little Rudy came over to my house, and you know, within an hour, Rudy was a problem. I knew Rudy was a problem that first minute, actually, when Rudy jumped up on me and took my dog's tail almost off. And the rest was history. So knowing I had little Rudy, which was a rat terrier, a little foster dog that we had here, I ended up telling Betty when she came back from vacation, this is a problem dog, Betty. This is not your typical foster dog that needs a little help. This dog needs a lot of help. And what I ended up doing was calling a trainer, not you, because I didn't know you yet, who came to the house. And I worked with him for several times. And after that, I went to another trainer in Taunton, and I worked with her for some time. And then I enrolled Rudy in agility training because that other trainer thought that would be good for her. And it really was good. She did a great job in agility. She really did wonderful in agility. But then after agility was over and I had Rudy at home, I was realizing that, yeah, that was all fun, but Rudy was still a problem dog. So I did some more research. I went on the internet and I started looking for local dog trainers. Lo and behold, I found New England Dog Training, and I called you one day, and I think we were on the phone almost 2 hours. Something like that.
Chatty for sure.
Yeah, so we were on the phone for a long time about Rudy, and I did make an appointment for him to come to the house to see Rudy, and I think you stayed in back of the couch.
Something, yeah.
Yeah, and I had Rudy by the leash in front of the couch. And then we came up with a plan to enroll Rudy in doggy daycare.
Correct, yeah.
And that lasted for quite some time, and then we continued to work with you, and we started bringing Rudy more and more to doggy daycare, and then finally I think we just left her there one day.
Yeah.
It's like, we just left her there, all right. So, and the good thing is, about a year ago, Rudy did get adopted, and that had to be the best success story this shelter has ever had, because I didn't think Rudy was ever going to get adopted. I thought she was going to stay my foster failure, and my dog would not have liked that very much. And then after that, we hired our new director, Ariana. Yep. And I introduced you to Ariana. We've had many conversations together. And lo and behold, the next dog that went to you was a Luscious, I think.
I think it was Luscious next, yeah.
And Luscious stayed with you for quite some time, and then Luscious is now a couch potato in her home, and then the story just kept on going, and I can't count how many dogs you've taken care of. Do you have a count in your head?
No, but you know, I just try to just help as many as we can, and it doesn't make a difference.
Yeah, so we have some great success stories with Bill, and that's been a wonderful thing working. So in the past, Bill will come here and Ariana will take him into the kennels, and they'll talk about one of the dogs that we have in the kennels.
Do evaluations here, or we'll take the dog off site and do evaluations. Sometimes the environment plays a big role in how the dog is perceiving information and is willing to give information.
So let's talk about a dog named Sherlock. Remember that little one?
Love Sherlock.
I love Sherlock, right. I took him to the vet myself. He was kissing me all night long. Great dog, and it was for adoption failure.
Right.
He nipped somebody in the ankles, I think.
Maybe one of the kids or somebody.
Yeah, it's a foster failure.
Yeah.
And then we have tough decisions, right? What do? Do we adopt out a dog that we know just nipped somebody? So call Bill. That's what we do now. We call Bill. So Bill, what did you do with Sherlock?
Well, it's not so much, I mean, doing. It's more about understanding and trying to figure out how to get the dog to understand it doesn't need to react that way. That life, for whatever reasons, it was approaching life in a negative manner. That it's not being harmed. It is receiving the love and the nutrition and everything it needs to be a whole animal, and give them space. You know, sometimes the wrong thing to do, which is a knee-jerk reaction, is you see a dog and you automatically want to reach down and touch the dog because the dog's cute. Maybe it's looking at you, it's smiling, it's wagging its tail.
That was definitely Sherlock.
But the last thing that dog wants you to do is to invade its personal space and touch the dog. Some people are introverts. Some dogs are introverts. It takes time to build a relationship and a rapport. And dogs can learn bad habits from bad interactions. I go to reach down to engage with the dog, but the dog doesn't want to engage, so it gets defensive just to tell me that it's uncomfortable. I perceive it incorrectly and I make this big huff about it and I move away. I've thus now reinforced the dog's behavior, teaching the dog that if it wants people to go away from it, if it acts nasty, then people will move away from it, which in turn isn't what the dog wants. It's like the old adage of a child trying to get attention doing bad things.
Like a temper tantrum.
Exactly.
So we could say the dog was doing a temper tantrum. It's the same kind of thing. So I remember when we had Rudy. When we started bringing Rudy to you, we told everybody, just don't touch Rudy.
Right.
Just don't touch her. Let her be. Just let her be.
Was an extreme version of Sherlock. Rudy would have broke skin for sure.
Definitely. And we didn't want that to happen. We didn't want a failure with Rudy. We never did. She never bit anybody.
No, right. Well, and that's because at some point I think I kept telling you, listen, this dog doesn't need confidence. It has plenty of confidence.
So it didn't need all that agility training.
I mean, again, like any type of obedience, agility work, that's all good stuff, but it doesn't cure behaviors. It doesn't teach a dog in this particular situation you need to present yourself and act in one way. In this particular situation you need to present yourself and act one way. I'll give you a perfect example. Nobody wants dogs going to the bathroom in their house.
Right.
Right? Y'all want dogs to go to the bathroom outside the house. But we set the dogs up for failure sometimes by allowing dogs to go to the bathroom in the house, or putting wee-wee pads down inappropriately and now teaching the dog that an absorbent object that's on the floor is okay. So when the dog goes on the rug, right, now there's a conflict because the dog doesn't know the difference between the big fancy rug and the wee-wee pad that it was going on.
Hello, that's my dog.
So it was just making simple adjustments, allowing her to decompress, allowing her to realize and achieve happiness and self-satisfaction from people, which is what she wasn't. People were a defensive mechanism for her. They weren't.
She was good with me all the time.
Some people, you know, listen, when you just in your daily lives, and anybody in their daily lives, as you're going through your daily lives, you're going to meet people and you're going to immediately make judgments, whether you like this person or not. And sometimes those will turn fruitful. Sometimes they won't. She was one of those dogs that immediately looked at you, immediately looked at Betty, immediately looked at Rachel. Rudy didn't like me. Rudy didn't like me at all.
She didn't like you. I remember that. Yeah, I was never going to touch Rudy.
She was not my friend. She was there for, I want to say, about a month before she allowed me to pet her. And when I say pet her, she came to me to ask for affection. It wasn't me imposing myself upon her to get affection from her, right? Like, that's some of those little changes that is hard to get sometimes when you're in this environment, a dog to turn that corner of trust and say, I need this affection from you, I want this affection from you, because they're so used to just being defensive.
So in a situation like we have here at Forever Paws, we have kennels. Yep. Right? We have big play yards outside, so we do give them enrichment. We have Kongs and toys and dog walkers, but it's still not a home environment.
Correct, yeah.
So even though we try to find the right home, and Ariana does a great job with that, we get dogs that come back.
Yeah.
I mean, we cannot ever say, no, we have the perfect adoptions. It never works like that. You think someone's perfect. Right. So we send this great big German Shepherd dog to a family, and he's there 2 weeks and he's back at the shelter.
Right, but you know what? Failures aren't failures sometimes. I mean, I guess you could look at them that way, but I don't look at things that way.
It's just not the right place.
It's not the right place. And how do you know until you try? You know what I mean? There's a certain effort that needs to be put in, and then rational decisions need to be made. The bigger problem is when people keep dogs that they shouldn't have kept. And now those dogs cause some sort of problem or disharmony in the house, or heaven forbid bite somebody, because they couldn't just simply say, you know what, this isn't the right dog for me. We need to talk to you or whoever they get the dog from and find a better situation for everybody. That's going to be ultimately the better situation from the dog versus people just trying to struggle through sometimes. And I guess from my perspective, it's not just struggling through. It's fine to struggle through if you're doing things to be productive and move forward. You're hiring a dog trainer, you're consulting someone, you're making efforts to make improvement. You're not just sitting back and trying to manage the dog's behavior, because management always ends in failure. I don't know anybody that's ever really managed a dog that dog ever lived a full productive life, right?
So there are some dogs that it'll never work, correct?
Yes.
I mean, that's the sad part about
100%.
living. Right, there are some dogs that this is never going to work. They're vicious, they're scary. I mean, that is a reality.
Well, the reality is those dogs are going to take a lot of time and care, that they can't be in a home environment or around people until they've gone through an intensive amount of rehab, and that takes a lot of effort and a lot of money. You know,
right,
and
tough on a shelter.
It 100% is, but that's why you guys work with. That's why you work with myself.
That's right, yeah.
It's why you work with other organizations to move dogs and put them in situations that they can get the care that they need, and sometimes ultimately the care that they need, unfortunately, is not necessarily what everybody wants for the dog.
Right, and that does happen. The other thing that I find, being so involved in Forever Paws and working with you, is Ariana, as our director, has made restrictions on things. So if you adopt a dog, she will post it on, social media is like everything. So she'll post on social media something along the lines of, you must own your own home and you must have no kids under 10. And why does she do something like that? Why does the general public have to see that, as opposed to people saying, well, I have kids, but my kids are great with dogs?
Because some dogs are not great with kids.
Exactly.
Matter of fact,
can you imagine Rudy with kids?
Well, honestly, when people call me, I had a couple call me the other day. They had got 2 Akitas, and they have 2 young children, and the 2 young children are having a really hard time with these 2 puppies. They're 8 weeks old. Well, an 8-week-old puppy just wants to chew on things.
Oh, yes.
And the energy that an 8-year-old is exuding is the equivalent of, what was the example I gave? I said, listen, if we walked inside right now, and you guys all remember the soda Jolt twice the sugar, twice the caffeine.
Yeah.
Give that to an 8-year-old and then watch him for the next hour after he drinks it, right? The equivalent of the energy that the 8-year-old is outputting to those two Akitas is the equivalent of that soda to him. Right? So now these dogs are just all hyped up on this 8-year-old that's been running around like a track circle in the living room, and now they just want to chase him. And when they get to him, the only thing they can grab him with happens to be their mouth.
Yeah. Oh my God.
You know, and then now, through example, the dog learns, oh, well, I just emotionally adjusted that human being, that child, ran away from me. It didn't even realize it was doing anything improper or proper.
8 weeks old.
8 weeks old. It just reacted to a situation and then was learned something from that. Just like that, which is how, isn't that how we all learn, right? We go through situations and we learn from the situation. Sometimes we learn the right thing. Sometimes if there's no guidance there, which in that case, right, there wasn't any guidance, so the dog just learned what it learned on its own, the child learned what it learned on its own, and there wasn't a medium there to say, hey, listen, next time let's do this, let's teach a dog not to do that. So, you know, for puppies and children, it's really important that parents play a huge role and not just expect their 8-year-old to train their dog.
So that's why what Ariana does on some situations, it's very important.
Absolutely.
When I hear people on Facebook say, well, I have kids, but they've been around dogs their whole life, why can't I get the dog? You know, and when Ariana puts these little restrictions out there, there's a reason.
Yeah, well, I'll give you another one. The dog has to have a fence. Why? Because the dog's a bolter. It hasn't been taught yet not to bolt. So the only responsible way to have that dog in your yard until, because I think part of the problem sometimes is people get dogs from here and in other places, and they just think that you guys have all this time and money in the world to spend training the dogs. So there's no effort that they really should have to apply, right? When really at the end of the day, everybody who adopts a dog, you don't have to hire me, but hire a trainer. You're going to do yourself a benefit.
Absolutely.
And the dog.
Yes. Speaking of training, when we met you, when I met you, I should say not we, because it was me initially. When I met you, you told me all about your style of dog training. There are many different styles of dog training.
It's an unregulated industry.
Okay, that I did not know.
Yeah, so anybody who reads a book, honestly, the scary part is you don't have to read a book. You can go down to the State Department and pay $50 to own a business license and call yourself a dog trainer.
There's no licensing for you?
No, I had to show no qualifications whatsoever to start a business in the state of Massachusetts or the state of Rhode Island.
Wow, that's kind of scary. Like you said, it's unregulated.
It's a scary, anytime any industry is unregulated, it's a scary thing for the consumers. You know, and for me, I'm passionate about that just simply because it's not just the consumer. There's children, the owners, and then the dog, all of which can be harmed from incorrect information. It's why you ended up going through 3 different trainers before you found me.
Say that. I went through 3 different trainers, and the 3 different trainers all had a different philosophy.
An approach, and yeah.
Different approach, different philosophy.
And not all of them were wrong necessarily
no.
about what they were teaching you or how they were teaching you, right? Like, so the gentleman that came and taught you obedience, Rudy learned obedience.
He did.
Right? She sat down. You went to the agility. She flew through the course. She was like, wow, I'm really smart at learning all of these different activities.
She actually took Rudy as a demonstration dog, right. But she could never touch Rudy. No one was teaching Rudy not to bite.
Well, they weren't teaching her how to enjoy the company of human beings.
Right. She could sit, she could stay, she could jump through hoops.
And she didn't understand how to enjoy the company of dogs either.
Right? She couldn't mingle with the other dogs.
No, it was a 50-50 whether or not she was going to, because she'd do the same thing for dogs as people. She would look at a person and judge, I like you immediately or I don't like
Jump
you.
up on my lap.
there was no gray ground. Right? It was I like you, I don't like you. So putting her in situations where she had to deal with conflict, but she couldn't react in a harsh way and nothing harsh could happen to her. She learned that I don't have to react this way. And she learned that if I don't react this way, more things are coming to her. Because do you think I'm going to give her a treat if I can't pet her? No, I'm not treating you for not petting me.
Yes. So that's
So,
how you learn.
yeah, that's how you learn. Good things happen to you when you do the right thing. So sure, I mean, we rewarded her for activities and actions that she did. Yes, I did. But I didn't reward her for her nasty behavior, right? Like we walked away. We ignored the behavior.
Ignored the behavior. But if you have a little child in the house, that's where the problem will come.
Absolutely, and that's why certain dogs cannot be with children. And certain dogs can't be with, some dogs come in and they're neglected, and they were neglected, unfortunately, by a man. So now that dog looks at men versus women and has a stigma. That's right. I don't know you, and I don't trust you, and I don't know if I want to trust you. Right? So it takes time to build through these barriers sometimes. They got set up as a purely defensive mechanism.
And they're all born with a blank slate, basically. Yeah. They're all born.
I agree with that. I can't argue with that. We learn from the environment around us, absolutely.
So knowing all of that brought us to this other situation we started the show with. It's called COVID. So here we are in the cat room at Forever Paws. We have been unable to go to Bristol Community College to do our shows in the studio. We've been doing our shows outside, and here we are now in the cold months. We were going to try to do it outside. I was going to have my winter decorations out there, but today is a cold, wet, rainy day, so we are inside.
It's a nice cat room.
It's a nice cat room,
comfortable.
Right? But COVID has impacted our business tremendously. We have so many restrictions in the building. We can only have X number of people in the building. That includes staff and volunteers with customers and, of course, Lucy and a guest. So we have to control everything, and that has been a problem for us, not to mention financially, because every single fundraiser was canceled.
Yeah.
Every single fundraiser was canceled. We've done a few drive-through clam boils, a couple of online fundraisings, like our shirts that we're wearing. How has it impacted your business?
Horribly. the same thing,
You're a small business. You're not a big conglomerate.
Right, yeah, no, not a franchise.
Yeah, so you're a very small business.
We rely on the doggy daycare and the boarding. Dog training's great, and I love helping people, but dog training has never, ever paid my bills. The boarding pays my employees, pays my rent, pays all the bills and the daycare, and when people don't need to be at work and they're at home, they don't bring their dogs. When their kids are home, they don't bring their dogs. So I mean, it was funny because we were in April, and I was like, April, May, June, the summer was going to start. I was like, okay, so we hit our early summer season early, right? It was just the way I wanted to view the whole thing. So I'm like, hopefully this will all be done by the time the kids go back into school. Summer's a slow season in the fact that once the kids are out of school, most of the dogs stay home with the kids, which is what I would do. I mean, you'd be financially responsible in some way, yeah. And then our boarding picks up. So usually our boarding will take up for what we lost in daycare for summer vacations. Right. But when you don't go anywhere and you're staying home from work, there was no vacation. So it was a really hard summer, and it's definitely getting into the winter.
I remember talking to you maybe in June or July, and you said you lost like 80% of your business.
Yeah. We're about, I think we're about 50% now.
So it's come up but a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
But not to the extent that it was before.
So if you guys need daycare. Right.
That's what you want. You want to make sure you get out there. And the benefits of daycare for a dog, I know Ariana's dogs go to your daycare now, yep. Right? She brings them 1 or 2 times a week. And the best part, she says, is when they go home, what do? They sleep. And she has puppies, middle-aged puppies.
You want to burn that energy out, you know? Otherwise, the dogs are, I mean, that's the whole thing about doggy daycare. Most people, you get home from work and the dog's been charging like a phone on the charger all day long, waiting for someone to come home and play with them. And now you're tired and the dog's like, listen, I need an hour of activity from you.
Right. So the doggy daycare, and I've seen your pictures. I've seen the toys in the yard, the swimming pools in the summer, the mountains that they can climb, all those things that they do, and the interactions with the staff. your people are like crazy with dogs.
I love my
Again,
staff.
I love
I
Halloween.
really am so lucky that even through COVID, I've been able to keep my staff.
Did you do a PPP loan?
did do a PPP.
Oh, good. It was a help for us. I know it was a big help.
Yeah, I was hoping for the second round of PPP to come through, to be honest with you.
But tell us about your favorite holiday with the dogs.
Favorite holiday? I like all the holidays, but Halloween happens to be a favorite one of ours. And if you're on Facebook and you want to just like our page just to see cute dogs, we put costumes on all our dogs throughout.
No, I saw Rudy in a hot dog costume, I think it was, or a cowboy costume. I cracked up. It was the funniest. This is Rudy we were talking about, and he had
This is the dog you can't touch.
right, and Rudy's in a costume for the Halloween show. So oh
I
my,
think we had her in the rodeo one.
yeah, that's what she was in.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Sherlock was for St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
had the
yeah.
bow that was bigger than him. Oh my God! So you got to go to his Facebook page and see some of these dogs, and then you put costumes on them just for nothing sometimes.
Again, I have a great staff. My girls love the dogs, and they love just doing anything with the dogs. So they will do photo shoots occasionally with costumes. Typically, all the holidays, if it's a holiday, we will costume dogs. So
Like Valentine's
Day,
Christmas.
We have different costumes for different seasonal events too. So
It makes
it's just
it for
something
fun.
that's fun for owners to be able to see their dogs. And some owners honestly can't get their dogs in costumes. The dog's not patient enough. They're not patient enough. So when they get to see their dogs and they see somebody who was patient enough to spend a half an hour to get a costume, which is kind of ridiculous to put a costume on the dog, but we're kind of
But it's
ridiculous
fun,
sometimes.
yeah.
It is fun.
This is the happy doggy daycare, let me tell you. This is like the funniest place to go. I love looking at all your posts. And when you post, I mean, you don't just post a picture today and a picture tomorrow. You post next week 50 pictures.
Well, but we don't post pictures every day.
Right.
That's why. There's a lot to do there. My
mean, you
staff
are
is very busy, so it's not something that I can just dedicate somebody to putting photos up every day. So yeah, so when we do put, it is a photo bomb when we do put photos
For
up.
50.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
tell me, how does a person get a dog into doggy daycare with you, New England Dog Training?
You can go to newenglanddogtraining.com and fill out a submission form, send the information in, somebody will contact you back from there. You could also send us a direct email. I'll make sure that you got all that information. How else can you? Google,
Regular phone.
regular phone.
How would they get a hold of you for dog training?
Same exact way. It's all encompassing in one thing. That's why it's New England Dog Training, not Foofy Daycare.
So
Because we are a dog training facility. I do want to emphasize that. We offer doggy daycare, we offer boarding, but while the dogs are there, they're managed slightly differently, in my opinion, than just going to a regular doggy daycare. There's structure that is not normally in place. We want the dogs to interact, but we want to do that in a way that allows the dogs to be constructive and not just running around being terrorists.
you also do not have dog training on site, is that correct?
No.
I remember I tried to get Rudy to go to a class.
Right. Well, I don't do class
On-site.
sessions. I do occasionally, and again, if you follow us on Facebook, I put these things up on Facebook. Occasionally, we will offer free group classes. I don't like charging for group classes. They're very chaotic and messy. So when I do group classes, I like to offer them for free. It's just a
Wow, I didn't even know
I'm
that.
a bad business guy. I'm a great dog
Very bad
trainer.
businessman. We won't go into that aspect of his job.
Well,
but,
I want people to feel like they're getting something worth their time. And group classes, one of the reasons I didn't ever offer them was because they're so messy. You go to a group class and the instructor, if you're lucky to have more than one instructor, is generally spending more time with one of the other 10 people that are there than in what you need for your goals. So group classes are great for dogs that have already gone through some type of training because they can already hold their composure, they're already following lessons, and then it's an addition or added to. And don't know if that answered your question.
Yes, it did, because I remember when I first originally called you and you were talking, I was saying, well, can I bring Rudy to a class? And that's when you explained to me, no, I go to the house.
Yeah.
Right, and you do your training at the house. But then after meeting Rudy, you decided, no, Rudy's got to go to doggy daycare.
She needed more than what you could put in a day's worth of work.
In a day's work in a
yeah.
house. So that's what we ended up doing. But gratefully, we ended up having this, I guess, reunion or meeting between our brains here, and now he's helping us out here at Forever Paws. And being the good businessman that he is, it's quite affordable, I can tell you that. Well, Bill, thank you so much for coming on my show today.